Feet together, solid brace across there, just inside and just stretch one leg. Heel together. I didn't talk about the doing a solid brace across here. It's also good just for comfort to have something that's kind of at an angle so you can rest your heels as well. But the power goes through the balls of your feet here. And then if you do have a rudder system, you want to be able to operate it just by your toes here. You need very little power to operate a rudder system, so you can do that. So you want a solid brace with a couple of little things to work the rudder. If you want rowing pads, they're best to go somewhere where they don't interfere with your normal paddling, put them close to hand. Make sure you don't have any pressure at all from the seat here. And seat comfortable, tight enough you can just grip, but it's loose enough that you can do that stuff. So that's what we talked about earlier. And onto the efficient paddle stroke.
Oh, Conrad, before we leave this topic, so ideally it's a bar.
Yes.
Because some boats don't have a bar, they have individual.
Yes, so I recommend that you connect those with a bar. Yeah.
It's more comfortable, I suppose.
Well, the reason they have the outside ones is just for convenience of manufacture. There's no good technical reason for it. You want to put the some boats, I don't think anyone here, some boats even have those ones where you actually use those things for steering like this. That's really bad. Because as soon as you're sort of pushing to go forward on that stroke, you find yourself steering in whichever direction it is. So that's a really, really bad design. Yeah. So you certainly don't want those, but you can paddle, of course, with your feet out like this, but you'll be more efficient. You can paddle with your feet like this. Right, so we've got ourselves in a boat, which is all nicely set up. So we've got our legs there with that right, and we've got a nice comfortable seat. And we've got a nice footrest to push against. And then the thing about the paddle stroke is the really important part of the stroke is this forward bit, and the blade will be in the water right from the front to right out here somewhere. But it's really the power comes in from this bit of the stroke. You don't really get any power from the back. So it's really important to get the front bit of the stroke right. So what we want to do, I don't smash things to it. So at the start of the stroke, I really want to be reaching forward to make sure that I put the blade in as far forward as I can, because I'm moving and the water's going past me. So by the time the blade has been immersed in the water, it's already back here somewhere, because it will have been brought forward. So it's really good if I can put the blade forward as far as I can, and then by the time it's fully ablaze in the water, then it's ready for me to do the pull. So I really want it so that at the point where it's immersed, and there I am with a nice, not locked arm, but more or less straight arm. I'm going to have twisted myself around, so I've got this leg ready to do the power, and I've twisted my torso around, so that's ready to deliver the power, and then in that position I can unwind the whole body, and then I put a lot of power into that part of the stroke without having to use my arm, because this is the weakest part of me. I want to use these muscles up through here, through the back. So I put this in, and basically that's the end of the stroke. There will be more paddle will go through the water back here, but you're not getting any power out of that. So and through. So I push through there, and now I'm set up for doing exactly the same on the other side. So I don't really even think about what's happening on the end of the stroke, because if I start worrying about what's happening here and how I'm getting out of the water and all this sort of business, then it's obviously going to be affecting that front blade, and that blade is the one that's important, because that's the one that's going to control my next stroke. So the way I think that I'm always thinking about the front blade. Here I am, reaching forward, in, pull, and now I can forget about that blade, time to start worrying about this blade. Pull, through. And of course I'm doing it with the whole body. So I said that once, we don't really need to teach people to do the pull bit because that comes naturally. It's obviously a very important part of the stroke. 50% is the pull, 50% is the push. But people will do the pull naturally. The thing that people are not so good at is doing the push. But that's just as important because what we're doing here is not just pulling through the water, we're levering through the water. So this bit is just as important as the pull. So the important thing is for people to use the top hand right because this hand is natural, this one not so natural, needs to be learned. So by the time I've got that in the water, I want to be of course pushing through there, but really I want to be punching up through here, and then I've got my paddle in the position to take the next stroke. So that punch is really important, and you'll see your hand going more or less along the line of the horizon up to the midpoint of the boat, maybe a little bit over the boat, depends on your stroke and how wide the boat is. But the top hand will be doing this sort of a movement. I don't want to hold the paddle like that because if I hold with my fist clenched like a whitewater paddle would, that's not a good thing. It might be good in whitewater, but I want to relax because then I can get that much extra reach with my paddle.
So loose grip on the top hand. Loose grip on the
top hand, absolutely. And there's another physiological reason for that. If you're pushing forward with the hand as a fist, you're giving your hand mixed messages. You can do that just like this. If you push forward, you can feel yourself extending forward. If you try that. But if you push forward with if you do a grab, you can feel yourself being pulled backward here. That's because the body has two basic reactions. It has two basic movements. It has a reach pattern, a reach motion, and a grab motion. And the grab motion is always a grab pull back. So you don't want to be doing the push with a closed fist because that's telling your body pull back, and you just want to be reaching forward. So very important you reach forward with an open hand. It doesn't have to be fingers like that, of course, it can be like that, but it shouldn't be locked. So reaching forward, and then as the paddle comes down into the water, then you're closing it here, and that tells the body pull back. That's what the hands are doing, and the legs of course are joining at the same time. So you're wanting to put the power in the same leg as the paddle that's in the water. So then I'm coming down here, I'm going to be using the whole of my body there to rotate through. Then I'm going to raise that knee, and I'm in position to do the same on this side. Down in the water, and my torso is rotated into the opposite leg. When I first started teaching the paddle stroke, I used to tell people to rotate their torso 45 degrees each side. So you can do that. A way of doing that as a learning experiment is just to lock your neck, and so you're moving your head down to your torso, and that's just an easy way of just thinking how far am I turning each time. That's a good thing to do every now and again. But then I discovered some people doing that without moving down here at all.
Maybe just the neck.
So that helps, of course, if you're using this part of you, which is better than just your arms. But now I teach people to not think about pointing here, but think of pointing with their belly button. So you're actually pointing right down low. You want to be moving your whole hips. So here's my belly button going down right away with the truck, so you're rotating the whole body. Cool. So the movement's going to come when I'm doing my push. I'm going to be pushing the ball of my foot against this nice solid part of the boat that I've got, and that's going to be extending my whole leg, just as if I was walking and doing that sort of extension movement. So that's a very natural movement. Extending through, that's going to push my right hip backwards, and my left hip's going to come forward, and that's going to give me the rotation that I want here. That rotation's going to go right up through me, and then I'm going to add a bit of extra rotation by using even a bit more of my chest. And then I kind of rotate it as much as I can be to both reach forward and put the power in on the return stroke. So it's very much a whole body movement. It's more like walking and running than it is like doing press-ups or whatever. It's a full body movement. So again, we're punching through the top hand, punching through loose because I can go further and more efficiently that way. The water's going past me, so I want to not just put the blade in on an angle, but actually want to sort of stab the blade in, so that by the time it's embedded, it's down here. There I'm starting to get a bit of a grip on it, and I pull it through, and start doing exactly the same on this side. Skewer, pull. So nothing to push against, I keep forgetting to use my legs. Imagining I'm pushing against something. So that's really all there is to it. The trick is getting all those things working in a sort of smooth motion. Let me just check my little crevice if I see anything.
On the power delivery, you start the power here and you do it only up to about 90 degrees, yes. But you don't make a conscious effort to bring the paddle out at 90 degrees. You keep on going.
Well, at that point, I just stop thinking about the paddle and start thinking about this paddle.
The next stroke.
Because I'll just take this one in the most efficient path to get it to where I want it there, and that will automatically decide the path of the back blade.
So even though you think if you follow it, but you wind up keeping the blade in the water and kind of lifting water out,
yeah.
You're not too worried about that.
No.
So that's what some people advise, that you're not supposed to be lifting water.
Well, and that's obviously true all else equal. But the trouble is it's not all else equal. You can only do clever things with this end of the blade by muffling up this end. So we'll talk about it out of the water. But some people do take the back paddle out at a particular place or in a particular direction or with a particular twist. I personally think that's not efficient, not important. Much more important to get get this one really right. That's all your power. That's all my power done by now. I can start worrying about how to get power on this side.
When you used to teach us that, in small groups like that, we all used to put a tuna that we could if
we can do that. Yeah, I'm happy to do that. That's really it. We're going to have a water session over here. I think it's much better to teach this on land than on the water, because you can't explain this sort of stuff on the water. In a kayak, you probably want to come down on the inside, avoid the shipping route.
Oh, that's right. Ada malampaya. Going to the book.
Right, current. Here we go. Right. Okay, so these are the symbols we need to worry about as a kayaker. These symbols here. So these are the current symbols. So that just indicates strong currents.
Do those things change?
Well, they come and go. They will typically be in one place, but they won't be there all the time. I add, because the only relevant information is really this stuff. That's the important bit. Everything else is just kind of useful, but it's map. So
tide grip, same as tidal race, right? Same
yes.
thing, or is it different?
So I think we have some tidal races here.
Or is a rip different from a race?
Usually it's the same as a river bar. You've got it usually means you've got two streams of water hitting. So you've got fast water coming in and something slowing it down, like a river coming out, and then you get the standing waves. Or you can also get these from wind versus tide. So that might not be on the map, but if you've got a strong current and wind going that way, you'll get standing waves. So all this is just I got the chart, and I transfer this information onto my map, and then I use the map because the map makes it much easier for navigating. And when you're doing expeditions and so on, it also tells you where the villages are.
And Conrad, the difference for those who are manning a motorized boat, they don't really mind so much about the winds. No, they just read the water because they have a motor anyway that pushes them.
The main purpose of the chart is to tell you what depth the water is. Hazards for big shipping, and of course that's not really relevant to us. We might want to know, for example, we might want to know about this because you can get rocks which only appear at certain tides.
These things are produced by the main users, end users for these are those guys now, the commercial. Right now, so that's how it is. Right?
Maybe so that they can sell a different map.
Is there no academy? Is there no place like you can go for schooling and you actually come up with these maps for basically unmotorized
Well,
vessels?
some kayak companies, they will produce a map like this. They'll usually use a topographical map
to begin,
but then they'll superimpose
those.
There's a good landing here, and there's a shop here, and there's a tide race here.
Which is based on their actual research of
Plus using other maps and putting all the information in one place. Like one thing we do is we also look through these sort of maps. And because these maps I've got are quite old, so we just update it. Not so much for roads because we don't care about roads really, but mostly just where the villages are.
Where you will be rescued.
Exactly. Rescue points.
But the blue areas are also useful. This is where that's the land at low tide. Is that the name of the blue?
Well, no, the blue is just the I think that's the 10 fathom. This 10 fathom. This meters, is it?
Maybe potential for surf.
So that's the 10-meter line. So that's not so relevant for us.
On some kinds of maps I've seen.
Well, these are important. This is the reef line.
The reef line.
So the reef line is very important, of course, because
the green.
Also the surf zones in the
Surfing?
Surf zones?
No, not really. Because they don't. These charts don't by themselves tell you what the sea conditions are like. So you need a separate source for that.
To field the study.
And the other important device is, of course, your compass, which I have somewhere.
Yeah, I had.
Lost it. You can use a compass on the boat, of course. There's one out there, which are very good. I just take this because it's a little bit lighter, and I think in the Philippines I won't need it much. Because mostly it's going to be obvious. I can just look and say, okay, there's the volcano, there's the land. I can see what's what. But sometimes, especially when you're in among lots of islands, it can be confusing as to where am I, which island is which. And approaching land sometimes, like if this is, like here we have a piece of quite flat land. So if I'm out here, it might be difficult to work out where I am. So I might need
the peaks.
Yes, I might sort of say, okay, here's that peak. Can I see that? And what bearing am I? And I know I'm along this line.
You know, when you race this style, they never explain us that navigation part in July. But to look, it looks. Did it look that way when we were heading out? Because we never looked back.
Oh, it's another good thing to do.
Look back
when you're leaving. If you're doing a round trip, when you're leaving somewhere, you look back. Just get a visual of what it looks like from the sea.
Told you.
I even turn around the kayak just to get the bearing, the opposite, because I don't want to do the mat.
You don't necessarily need a bearing.
You just look back. You just look back tapos kung ano yung back bearing mo. So if you're kunyari north to, you know na when you look up it's south. Yeah.
But even without a bearing, just to look back and say, okay, I remember that one. It's the one just to the right of the trees. Whatever.
So looking back is good or bad?
It's good.
The problem is I can't do it. Tendency
yes, you can. You just turn the
side mirror,
and
that's why we need to.
Not your body, but
And Conrad, sometimes we up here is a ridge, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you also look at the form of the mountain above, so directly.
So again, and also another very useful thing for kayaking is transits, which is that's when you do a a line. You can see the mountain up here, and so you look back and you know, okay, that's the mountain that's above my beach.
Well, that's what we do.
But what you don't know is, am I coming in this way or am I coming in this way? So what you do is you find something that's directly beneath the mountain. There's something prominent, a tree.
What do you call that method?
Transit.
Transit.
Yeah. So you find something that's lined up vertically. Doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's stationary, not a car.
Not a car.
Just like Conrad.
Or a carnival or
Don't choose your girlfriend because the girlfriend might be another.
Actually, we use that in marking a fishing hole.
If she leaves you, you'll get lost.
So then you're coming back, and you see your favourite mountain, and the house is over here somewhere. Then you know that
It's the wrong side.
you really want to be. You know you're coming up here, but you want to be on this line. So you know you're going too far to the right. So you start steering to the left until you hit this line. When the two are lined up again, and then you know you can
Just go straight.
then you can go in. So transit is very, very important for navigation.
So transit is the method, or transit is some kind of instrument?
Transit just called
one of the
method
techniques.
of lining things up. And of course it works best with something which is high, but you can use it on flat land as well. You just need.
We should have won that race. We should have run that race before this. We got the lecture.
You just need two things lined up. So you might have a tree on the shore and a house low behind. So it's easier if there's something high, but you can still use it in flat land. And you're also very useful for navigating on the water, because if you look at it from a plan view like a map, you might have an island here, and you're out here and you're paddling away, and you're not quite sure where you are again. You can still do transit like you, for example, you know this line, because you can see that's where the islands kiss.
tangents.
Yeah, and you know that line from the map.
Tangents, triangle tangents.
So you can
Tangents,
you can sort of estimate where you are by looking at where islands are relative to each other, because you've got all these transits everywhere.
Equidistant.
And that's what I do when I'm doing a crossing or something. I say, okay, the next thing I'm going to notice is these islands, that gap will close. So then I know I'm there. And then I carry on, and eventually the gap will open again. Now I know I'm here.
It's more of to really know what to avoid, no? Because if you're far off, then you realize that these islands will be crossing.
Yes, and if you see that you're if you see there's a great big gap between the islands, then you know something's wrong.
So you're lost, maybe.
Yes.
We were forced to do this kind of thing, but on our own here, because there was a race here.
Yeah. Now the other very useful thing you can do with transit is you can work out whether a boat is going to hit you or
I was
not.
going to ask about that.
So here you are with a boat coming along, and you're down here. Let's say you're over here, and you want to know whether this boat is going to collide with you or not. So if you're travelling along here, the boat's travelling along here, and
Sooner or later you will intersect.
but you want to know.
Whether you'll be ahead of you or behind you.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to be at the same point. So is the boat going to beat you, or are you going to beat the boat? Or do I have to stop and wait, let the boat go past?
To avoid damage to the ship.
So what we do is we just look past the point on the boat to find something on land, whatever it is. That point of the hill maybe. And then we carry on paddling, because it's important that the speeds are the same. You can't stop and do this. You get a false reading. So you just carry on doing whatever you're doing. And if that line stays the same, then you will collide. Because you're going down the same vector.
That's good.
That, of course, this has to be far away. If it's just behind the ship, then you get a false reading. But this has to be something on the horizon. And then of course if you see that the boat is going past relative to that point the boat is going past, then that means it's going to go
ahead
of you, and you're safe. You can just carry on paddling. If you see that the boat is slipping behind, then again you say, oh, okay, I'm ahead of the boat.
And that's a decision
And
point
go
if
carry
you
on paddling.
wanna beat it or not. No?
Yes. But if you see it saying roughly on the same line,
You
then
mostly like to
you better stop paddling and wait.
Well, wait or speed up.
Wait or speed up, yes. Usually wait.
Jude and I were paddling through the door. And he said, no, it's okay. I remember that, Jude. We kept on paddling, and before that, we were about to collide with that big ferry.
I just stopped recording.
It's an access.
That's easier to decide because of the navigational lights of the ship. They're green and...
You can't tell that. That will tell you which directions is relative to you, but it won't tell you whether you're going to collide or not.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
And it will if you're stationary,
Yeah, that's good.
because you know it's not heading towards me. That's good. But if you also got your boat coming up, bad boat. I'm sorry, it's sideways. So the boat's coming sort of slightly towards you, and you've got two bits on the boat, and mast and the cabin or whatever. Obviously, if that boat is, if you can see the boat side on and you're stationary, then that boat is going to miss you.
Yeah.
The dangerous bit is when that boat is turning. You're not quite sure whether it's going to. You don't know what it's going to do. So I still keep an eye on that boat, and I know if those 2 points on the boat start lining up, then I know.
Like the pole.
It's just like pole. Yeah, it just tells me it's turning. Obviously, I'll see eventually because it'll be pointing towards me, and I start panicking. But to get an early indicator of whether it's turning, you just watch two bits of the boat and either getting closer together, and then. And if so, you know it's turning towards you, and of course that becomes a difficult situation because you don't know when it's going to stop. It might go right around here and that's fine, or it might just turn and head straight towards you. So all you can really do in that situation is to keep an eye on the boat and do this as well.
But if you have this but there's no land there, it's open sea, and you don't you have that part, is there any way around that, or you just
Not really.
get that?
You just have to, the boats aren't a real danger because most boats will travel. Some boats are really fast with fast ferries, that sort of thing. But most boats, fishing boats and so on, they'll travel at sort of 20 knots maximum. And that's not too bad because, and also the danger zone is quite small for a boat. You can be here and you're still quite safe.
Stop.
Yeah. You can't trust that they will see you.
Yeah.
So you have to assume they're going to see you. But even if the boat comes quite close and you weren't expecting it to turn, it suddenly turns at the last minute. You've only got to move a little bit away and you're safe.
And I think the rule is the smaller boat should give way to the bigger one.
Well, yes. Yeah. In theory, power gives way to sail. I wouldn't count on it. And the wise thing is to give way to everybody. Well, not give way, but just avoid them.
Yeah.
Just change your route slightly or change your speed slightly.
Just drive defensively.
Yeah, absolutely. So the transit is a very powerful thing for driving, and that's something you can practice all the time. So it's very good. It also gives you a good measure of your own speed. It's always encouraging when you see trees moving past the mountain because you know you're making progress.
Especially when you're against the current.
Well, exactly. If there's a strong current, and sometimes it gets you're not even sure, am I making progress or am I even going backwards? And, this transit gives you an easy way of making that judgment. So that's a very important part of current navigation.
So that is also a disadvantage. You cannot use that if it's dark and it's night time.
You can use it when they're light, so you can still use it for a boat. You can see a boat approaching you and there's a light on the boat, and so you have to find something on the shore you can see which might be a light or a silhouette of the mountain, whatever. It doesn't have to be exactly precise, but you can see whether things are starting to drift apart or start getting closer again. So it's still useful at night.
The power of observation.
Yeah.
So are you planning to paddle that time soon?
And there was a time that Jude and I wanted to hit this crossing. This is again with the heavy boat, so we wanted to paddle maybe earlier so that it will not burn your
Moonlight paddling.
The thing is, when we woke up, we realized I think it's too early because we cannot figure out precisely this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because there's no lighthouse to paddle.
Yeah. So that's what, like Alison and I will be probably starting before dawn.
Something like that.
So to get the cool of the day.
Yeah.
Maximize your. Yeah. So idea is you have to get on the water before dawn. That means that when you finish for the day, you need to make a bearing.
Yeah.
So the previous day you'll take a bearing to that point.
Yeah.
And then when you're on the water, you can just check every now and again, am I heading in approximately the right direction?
Actually, when they built this Balay Isabel, they built it bigger and higher. It became more advantageous for us.
That's a good landmark.
Yeah. Because just a few years ago, it wasn't like that. So you had to figure out the mountain.
You can't go wrong with that building.
And Jude and I were debating. No, it's here. No, it's here. But when they built it,
See the words debating.
I have the same in my little area where I live. I know the critical lights.
Yeah.
I can,
It's not an
sort of see
argument,
where I am.
really, it's debating, so
Blind
it's
marks, I
longer.
know that I'm on the right route.
It's
You're always
longer.
debating.
Today you have the sky eye.
no, but
The
I
sky
remember
area.
that, Jude, because we
Very
crossed from
sweet.
Manila Bay. There was a race to go to Corregidor Island. Do you know that? Corregidor Island. It's a very significant for us because of the World War II. No?
Right.
The Japanese really
It's
hid there, and the Americans couldn't get them out. They just
the last stand of the Filipinos.
Alright. Yeah. I would never. I would always land in daylight because it's unknown territory. So at home I know the beaches. I can land at night safely, but I never, very rarely do a night landing on a trip unless I'm going into a village or a town. Because you're just not quite sure what you get. So you're usually better off landing in daylight. And I like to allow a full hour of daylight to set up camp and so on. And then, but leaving in the morning is fine because you know the land, and you know there's no rocks here, and you're safe to launch and so on.
But Ellie, were those questions the ones you wanted to ask?
Already answered.
Yeah, already answered.
I think that is quite important when you land at night and you know you're going to take off in the morning. You do need to take a bearing.
Yeah, you need to take a bearing, and in a place like this where you've got not like this, but like that, where you've got big tides, then of course you need to consider what the state of the tide will be in the morning. So that's actually how we planned the timing for this trip. So we plotted out what all your strange tides are doing.
There are strange
You
tides.
get strange tides.
That's
in-
kind of the average for the entire country.
No, this is for Puerto Princesa. So I got the Admiralty pilot for the Philippines, but I'm sure you have your own sources too, just to look at the tide tables for every month the next year.
I haven't.
But,
No, I haven't. This is the first time I've seen
so
Conrad plotted that. That's
well, I put them into a spreadsheet,
because they
and
don't come like that.
so I was trying to find out when is the time when we have high tide at dawn, so that I can get out back over the reef. So this is a plot of kind of what time would be best. And that's the problem we had when we were here in December because we didn't understand the tide system.
Is it reliable to just ask the locals there, not the fishermen?
It probably is, but you can't ask them when do I come back next year, which month. You can ask them what time is the tide tomorrow.
The answer is it depends.
Yes, yes.
It depends.
But what we found last year is the tide hardly varied.
Well, yes, it's a very strange tide system. So you've got these quite big changes, and then every once in a while it comes down and you get just 2 tides a day, and they're very small. And then you're back to 4 tides a day, and some of them are very big and some of them are very small. And then you've got some days where it's 2 big tides and no small tides.
Is this pattern of behavior normal?
No.
No, that's what you guys are quite abnormal.
Most places in the world, including New Zealand, you would have 2 high tides and 2 low tides per day,
Yeah.
and they'll be
You know, that's why,
Predictable.
that's why when you read the encyclopedia, the textbooks we have when we go to high school
Yeah.
here, they talk about these weather conditions. Sometimes I realize it's not so applicable in our context because our books are usually copied from Western.
yes,
And then
absolutely.
that's why I have some visitors asking, just like what happened to this. How come you have a high tide here, a low tide? Like that?
Yeah.
I don't know, but that's
There are some places in the world which, like Alaska, has some strange tide patterns as well. But most places you would have 2 high, 2 low, and they'll all be roughly the same height, and they'll all be roughly 6 hours apart.
Some places they have 50 feet of high tide.
The Bay of Fundy.
Bay of Fundy.
It's amazing. I went there. It's just amazing.
So we are living in a more colorful
Yeah.
Yeah.
archipelago.
So what what we had to take into account is because around Palawan it's coral reef, so you land inside the coral reef. So when you go to sleep, you wake up in the morning, the tide's way the hell out there.
Yes, that was the other problem we had on
You
our
have to
trip.
carry the
Well, you
handicap.
can't carry it that far.
If
It's
it
just
wasn't,
too far.
yeah, you just
So
can't.
drain your energy.
Yeah.
It's not,
And loaded kayak.
and it's current. It's not nice flat sand to drag a boat over. It's bumpy, rocky,
Rocky,
hard
oh.
coral.
So you can't drag
Sea
your
urchin
boat.
also.
Yes,
Yeah.
that stuff. Yep. So it wasn't a problem. It's one of the reasons why I had a slow trip, because it was only towards the end where we started going into the coral country. Initially it was beaches, and once you're in the coral country, then managing the reefs is really important. So the maps, from a navigational point of view, the maps will tell you where the passages through the reefs are and so on. So that's going through here, and this is not a very good example. It's just a coastline, but when you've got the islands, sometimes there's a gap between the islands which you can go through on high tide. Sometimes there's a gap you can go
Hey
through on
Renee, you're
tides.
gonna plot this out for us in 100 Islands, right?
Yeah, when you got stuck there, did you expect that, or was that a surprise?
Well, no, we knew the reefs were there because we had the maps. What was
It
the
wasn't a
surprise was the tide.
With the tides were a
But
surprise.
you didn't have the tide timings?
No, because we didn't realise the tides in Philippines are so unusual. And
Unusual meaning one
can have
versus
two
two
tides.
per day.
Yeah, because we were going for 3 weeks. So in 3 weeks, in most countries, you would get every pattern of the tides because they'd go cycling through on a monthly basis. So it doesn't really matter which weeks you go, because you get some good weeks, some bad weeks. But we just got a run of continuous bad weeks. we were in the wrong sort of cycle. We were in the cycle when a high tide in the afternoons.
You were assuming 4 per day.
Yeah,
You were assuming
so
4
we were
per
assuming
day.
if there's a high tide in the afternoon, there'd be a high tide in the morning too.
But there wasn't.
Wrong assumption. So that's
So the problem,
our mistake.
so we
didn't,
wanted to leave in the morning before the heat, but the tide was so far out. So instead of leaving at like 5 o'clock in the morning, we'd be leaving at 10, 11 when the tide came in. So you were leaving in the heat of the day.
You assumed 4 per day, but it turned out to be 2, or the other way around.
Yeah.
You assumed 2, it
We
turned out to
assumed
be
it'd be a normal sort of pattern, which is our mistake. But we'd read the
which is a 4 per day. 4 per day.
we'd read the Admiralty pilot and that sort of thing, and they didn't talk about this.
So
Anyway,
that doesn't come out here either. They should say whether it's 1, 4. All of these are 4. Ah, here, it's 2.
yeah, some are 2, some are 4, some are 3. So anyway, that's navigation important, because
Getting close.
when you're especially in country with reefs, it's critical whether the tide is above the reef or below the reef, and got enough clearance for the boat, which is not very much. You don't need just a foot of clearance is enough, but you
Reef for mud.
got to time yourself around the reefs.
So in the 100 Islands, are there coral reefs around the islands, or are they just, it's just...
Some islands have corals. They're well known for corals.
Most of them.
No, in fact, I just remembered when we did the race there was a portion along the route. Maybe the race Val didn't foresee it. Because he was probably counting hours that are just shorter. But since some participants were lagging behind, when they crossed that path, the tide was going down. And then some became very, even slower paddling in that
Because
area.
as the water gets
Well,
lower,
you're-
it's harder to paddle.
Yeah, your paddle hits the...
Yeah.
And they say, be careful because they're trying to preserve it, right? So try not to hit. So you paddle like that. So it became slower. I actually...
You might as well get out and pull your boat.
But they were strict because they said this is the route. But you wanted, at that moment, I wanted to get out of that route, precisely with that logic. There's nothing you can do. It's gonna go down further. Instead of staying longer here, let me paddle out. A little bit out.
So something like here's part of the route we'll be doing. So we'll need to make decisions as to do we go through this passage, for example, or do we go through here?
Yeah.
And this will depend on the tide and the pattern of the reefs. So it'll affect what options we have, and if we do decide to go through that, do we want to go through it with the tide going that way or the tide going this way? And,
Efficiency.
yeah. So the tide's very important always, but especially in a reef country, and especially in a country which has odd tides.
Or big tides as well.
Big tides.
So like in British Columbia, the tides are so big, you actually couldn't paddle against them. Could we? I mean, you just have to land.
Yeah, sometimes you.
And with all these things running in your mind, do you still kind of enjoy the scenery?
Oh, well, yeah. Well, I love the challenge of navigation.
Yeah,
That's
challenge.
I really like the navigational part of it. Yeah, trying to work out how to do the route, and just on land, so where do we go, but also when you're on the water, because then you've got to read what's the wind doing, and what's the water doing. It's, you're never quite sure which way the currents are running. To me, that's a plus of sea kayaking, not a minus.
Do you encounter any races or rips in Palawan area?
Not yet, but we will do.
We did, Conrad, when we were coming through that stormy passage, the,
Oh yes, there was a big rip.
where I told you we shouldn't be there.
Yeah, no, we did get one big rip actually.
Yes, I was not happy.
It was okay. It was just a mile.
That's why you remember it.
So
The fishermen were laughing at us, like, why are you out here? This is really, this is not good. Conrad's
did-
saying, this is fine.
So did Conrad sleep out of the tent that night?
No.
Okay. So you were not happy.
Yeah, we got we hit one,
Well, it was
we hit
really-
one rip coming through here.
So
Which is
which
just,
area?
we're just coming in the inside of Dumaran Island.
Are there cases that the current is faster than an average kayak speed?
Yes. Yeah. You can guess
So-
like a kayak speed will be 3 knot, 4 knot, depending on how fit you are, what sort of kayak you got. You can easily get knots like in Cook Strait. You get
So what are you
7
gonna
knot
do in
currents.
that case? You just reroute or battle the
Well,
current?
The ideal thing is to avoid it. And you physically can't fight a current that's faster than you are. So sometimes I did a Cook Strait crossing last year, I think, and I got into a current which was just too fast for me. So I tried battling it for an hour and got nowhere. So then I changed plans and went with it, and just changed my route, because this is only an approximation. This is some computer program trying to predict what's going to happen next year. It's not exact.
Again, it's a prediction.
Yes.
But it also depends where you are, because I've been there a couple of times in British Columbia where the current was faster than we were, right?
Yeah.
But they've got big lots of seaweed, so you just sit there and you hang on to the seaweed until it changes that you can actually paddle. So depends what's around.
Is the seaweed strong enough to...
Oh yeah, it's
kelp.
huge. It's huge with kelp.
So this was a stormy
So you basically sit
passage
your
here.
boat on top of it and
Just had a big strong current coming through here.
You can carry those length of ropes
Wasn't too stormy. Just a strong current.
Okay.
But Alison, that's clean.
Usually that
clean
happens
kelp.
if you have two main.
Yes,
Yeah.
very on.
Because we
like a
have
funnel,
one of
right?
that
Yes.
also in Pasig River here
Yeah.
in Metro Manila, but you would not dare touch it.
Oh really?
Can have
Direct
test
experience with battling. I once fell in my boat turn. I was using the K1 that the coach wanted us to practice, but it goes through Laguna Lake, which is very dirty, so there's a lot of seaweed there.
septic tank.
One time I got caught because I was, covered by that, and the K1 is very unstable.
We had a current going through a narrow gap, but what we also had was a reef system, so that there's a reef going out. And like that, and it was high tide, so this was underwater, but the water will still avoid the reef. So yeah, it helps if you kind of think of yourself as water. If you think, what would the water do? Obviously the water here is going to start funneling through that gap, and then only a little bit will go over the reef because it's more resistance and less volume. So you're going to get a strong current through there, and then of course the water will come whistling out here. So you're going to get little tide rips off points like that. Even though that's all underwater, there's a reef there. You're still going to get these strong currents in through there. So that's what we got. We just had quite a fight to get around that corner. So going through here wasn't so bad because it was against the current, but it was smooth water. But you get the sort of choppy stuff here where it's confused seas. So you just read what the water's doing. In this case we didn't have strong winds, but if you have strong winds as well, especially two colours really, so the dotted line is the wind, say you've got a strong winds coming in here, then firstly the wind itself will accelerate around points, so the wind itself will do this sort of thing.
I guess it's
Because at the current level, 100 foot up, it might be just going smooth. Down where we are, the wind will also follow around the contours. So we all know that points like this are wind magnets. They attract the wind. Obviously, especially if it's a cliff point, that'd be much worse. But even if it's just trees or whatever, you'll still get little squalls around the point as the wind channels through. And the really bad thing is when you get a strong wind against a strong tide. Yeah. So if we didn't have this situation, but if you had a situation where there's a strong wind as well, then that would be worse. And you might even get sort of standing waves in these sort of areas, where you've got the wind and the current going against each other. And of course the maps and the charts won't tell you that.
So they won't.
No, they won't tell you what happens in bad winds. They'll tell you what happens in bad tides. They might indicate that, because that's quite often happens, whatever the wind is.
There's no wind chart, right? Because the wind doesn't change.
Yeah.
Just a wind prediction, I think.
Yeah, so you have to make your own judgments, and you'd want to go out. Obviously, you plan to go out on a day when there's not too much wind.
So what happens when you get caught in something like that? When you're going this way and the wind is pushing you back against the current?
Depends how bad it is.
Yes, depends how, well, when you're in the middle of it, that's when your whitewater skills come in handy.
Making progress.
But it's like, you know that the water itself is travelling very fast in this direction. So you can easily get out of it usually. You turn around and go back out of it, and then have a rethink what now. But you should be able to get out of the nasty bit fairly quickly. Or you go going right in through and trying to sneak in really close to the edge. That usually works. Obviously you wouldn't be able to do on this edge because you've got a coral reef. But kayaks have a big advantage over other boats, that we can go into the water that shallow and just sneak around the corners and so on.
It happened to us in the race in Subic. We had to cross from Subic Bay to that island in Anawangin Bay.
Silangin.
Like that. There was a strong wind. Racers couldn't get through it easily until we decided to just hug the.
And the other thing is, if you have a channel like this with the current going through it, then you will get back eddies. So if you're going, you want to go that way into a current, then this current will be creating eddies like this sort of thing in the bays. So that if you stick to the middle, then you're going to be fighting the current all the way through. But if you're clever, you can read the water, and you might have to, for example, fight around this point. That'll be hard work, sneaking around that corner there, and then you'll get into this eddy and you have a nice ride through here.
So you can capitalize on
it. And then you have a little fight to get yourself around that,
and
get yourself into the next eddy. So you can play the land to make it easier for yourself. But that's getting these sort of things on maps. You have to just make your own judgment from what it looks like the water's doing.
Because one time I paddled with remember Jude C. Alvin? K1 athlete who doesn't know anything about expeditions. We're tandem, but using again the slow boat. And with his power, he said he just wanted to go through. But I knew that I couldn't match his his pace. I said, no, we just read it and go along with it. So we got through with that technique. But first, he was going against it.
Well, you can use less power, but the speed through there is going to be your speed less that speed, which might be quite a small number.
Again, efficiency.
So I mean, your athlete would still go much faster if he was a clever athlete.
We didn't win the race. Remember that guy? See, Alvin with that in Subic, that race. I brought him. We were together there.
But if you have to choose, which is the worst enemy, the wind or the water current? Wind.
Worse.
Yeah. Well, partly because water current is kind of predictable. You know, you can look at your tide charts, and you look at your tide tables, you look at your charts, you know roughly where problem areas are going to be, and you can time your trip and avoid things on. But wind you can't. Wind can just.
We cannot make ourselves more hydrodynamic.
Does it help to make a sail? Does it help to make a sail?
It doesn't help from wind avoidance, because in a strong wind you wouldn't be able to use it anyway. So wind is definitely a danger, a risk factor for kayaking. In terms of tennis, there's one thing that's very good is to, if you see, you have fishing buoys around. If I see a fishing buoy somewhere close to me, I'll always paddle over it to have a look. And what I'm looking for is it'll tell me what the current's doing. You can see what the buoy is doing. You can see how strong, which direction the current is, and that's of course very useful information. So I say, okay, there's an eddy working here or whatever. So I won't go a mile off my route to look at one, but if there's one just over there, I'll change my route slightly, have a look.
It works like a wind cone.
Exactly. It gives me information on what the current's doing.
Oh yeah, no, that's quite an interesting one to see which way the.
And the same with seaweed.
If it's not obvious.
Maybe not here, I'm not sure, but some places you get these very long sort of kelp seaweed stuck on the bottom. And when there's not much current, they will just float on the surface. When there is a current, they'll be streaming out like this. And so you can look down into the water and just see which way the seaweed's going. That tells you the same thing.
Just like Harry Potter.
Yeah.
I'm just adding it to that video.
And you can also tell by looking at the water. So if there's normally you'd find a bit of a current line, so you can see if I was looking at that water. I'm in my kayak coming up here, wondering which way to go, and you can't really see an eddy. What you can see is swirl lines. So where there's a difference in the water, I might find a little line of swirls along here. Right around. Okay. Probably be up here somewhere, where you've got two different currents merging. So I know that there's something going on there. There's two currents doing different things. It's not big whirlpools or anything. I can just see the waters rippling and moving a bit, and so I know that there's a current going one direction on one side and the other direction on the other side. And usually it's pretty obvious which one's which. If not, I can just paddle up there and say what's going on.
And it answers you.
Don't like it, so I come across here and find.
It gives you a 1 hour answer.
Yeah. So I won't actually paddle in that stuff because that's kind of stationary water. That's water that's being mixed up in between two currents. But I know if I can get into the clear water on this side, then it'll be going in a different direction. So you can read the water once you get experience as to what's going on. Won't be able to practice that today, I don't think. It's too calm out here. So this all helps on the navigation. It just makes life easy, and it makes life interesting. It's fun to read the water and work out what's the best route through. And if you look at the animals, the fish, that's what they'll be doing. Fish aren't stupid. They're not going to tower up there. You'll find them going around the corners and doing that sort of thing. Yeah. And the natives, when I was up in British Columbia, the native Indians, they take a lot of trouble to do this, even in power boats. You find all the
Save some on petrol.
Yeah, all the white Americans will just be powering up here.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. All the Indians will be just sneaking around here with their little outboard motors.
Kaya kahapon nag-shoreline kami.
Is there also, aside from that,
We did the shoreline.
you're there, is some indication that tells you it's good to paddle, meaning good weather, like
Well,
the behavior of the animals, or
I don't know about the animals, but apart from kingfishers.
Well, the kingfishers are true out there.
Just watch the kingfishers. But no, maybe there are, but I don't know them. But certainly it's good to watch the sky.
sky.
Yeah.
But another thing we actually use locals, if the fishing boats aren't out, you know
Yes.
that there's something
Correct.
going
Yes.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, every day the fishing boats go out early. So if the fishing boats aren't out when we go out,
Yeah.
I think there's
Yes.
something not right.
Or you suddenly see the fishing boats coming
Coming
early,
back.
and then you go to land. Yes.
Yeah. And if we are a little bit unsure about what the weather's doing, I mean, even though we don't speak the language, we get by, and the fishermen, we can sort of have a conversation as such, and I'll just go.
For the weather, I definitely want to read the weather, that's difficult for us because it's very dependent on the country. So that's something that you'd be much better at than we are.
It doesn't say anything except that rainy season is from this month.
No, but I mean, you get to know your seasons and you get to know your skies as well. So in New Zealand, we can read the skies and know what's coming, but we also have very good weather reports as well.
Yeah, so yesterday evening it was pretty obvious something was brewing.
So even though the German,
big black clouds over there.
Even though the German told me it's not going to rain, it's like, I think it might.
So yesterday it was just pure wind waves. Pure wind waves. There's no tide there. Just wind waves in the same direction as the wind.
Yeah. Yeah. So if there was a current going in that direction, that would have been worse. Being current against wind.
If the current was going the same way,
it would be lovely.
Oh, nice to ride that.
That would be.
I mean the same way because we're going against.
Yes, if you have the wind and the current going the same, then that's very nice conditions for paddling because you get
as long as
and the.
If you're going in the same direction.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're heading into it, then it's doubly worse.
Yes.
186.
You get the going into it. You get the wind brings the waves up sharper.
Yes.
And it also gets sprayed goes everywhere. So it's generally
The wind
messy.
Wind and current are going the same direction. It's fine. There's less confusion.
Yes.
But if they're going in opposite direction, that's where the waves things become confusing.
Turbulence.
The waves will actually stand up. They'll have sort of shorter wavelength. So you've got so you've got another channel through here, say, and you've got the wind going, got the lines for the wind, and you've got the current coming through here. Then yes, you're very, very likely to get, so you might have a nice gentle swell coming through here, which is quite nice to paddle in. Smiley kayaker. But when you come in here, then these waves are going to basically
Sharper pitch.
get shorter, and of course if they get shorter then they might start breaking. So I'm always surprised this happens because this water might only be doing 2 knots. The wind might be doing 20 knots. So I would say, well, why is that not the same as just 0 and 18? So isn't that just a relative difference of 18 knots? But the reality is it doesn't work like that, and I'm not quite sure why. But this is much worse because for some reason I think there's some sort of momentum behind the water that accelerates it. So you've only got to have quite a small current against the wind before it gets pretty messy.
How does that feel like in a kayak when you're in that confusion?
Well, I love it myself. It's like
You must have been in something like that in white water.
but for an inexperienced kayaker, that would be a dangerous situation. So you'd want to get out of that. You either like a whip current, you get out by going to shore, and then you can probably get along the shore quite easily because usually these things are worse in the middle. But if you had a sort of short, sharp point like that, then you could get quite nasty around that little point just because it's sort of sticking out into it. So you've got to make those sort of judgments on that. But no, these can be, if you're an experienced kayaker, this can be really good fun. It's just standing waves you can ride on like in whitewater. So that's just the sort of things you need to watch for, be aware of.
Yeah, because in the races, we by the go! So at the end of the day, you see some will be rescued, some will make
Some
it,
will
some will be
capsize.
very late, some will capsize.
I think the expression is wind happens.
Yes.
Wind happens.
Yeah, okay, so it does in New Zealand.
as in shit happens.
Yeah.
But the weathercocking, how does that work? What the tendency is to turn into the wind, to turn the wind. Does that mean is that because the moment being applied to the stern is more than the moment applied being to the
No,
bow?
I think what happens there, you've got a kayak going forward, is that if you were stationary in the water, you would drift.
Sideways.
You'd drift sideways. But what happens, I think, is because you're actually going forward, you're actually biting into the water here, and that creates that as a kind of pivot point. And therefore, while the wind is pushing equally, you're going to end up like this, because there's a bit of resistance from the force of doing that.
And there's no equivalent on the stern, keeping it from
skip. Well, there's no equivalent because this is this is high pressure, this is low pressure from water. So the boat's going to go more into the low pressure area. So I read an interesting book on this. I think it was actually by Frank Goodman, who's the guy who developed the Nordcam. He was interested in this problem. So what he did is put the seat in the other way around in his boat and start paddling it that way to see what happened. And he found exactly the same thing, even though he was basically paddling his boat backwards, and it still is what is now the bow, which was the stern, is still the bit which catches. And the other part
so
of the boat.
So if you're going backwards, your stern will be going in,
so
same thing.
So you start going backwards, even though you might have a rudder and God knows what, and nice sharp bow, even though the boat might be quite asymmetrical, you get the same thing again. Now you're going backwards, there's a high pressure there, low pressure there, and the boat's going to swing around that way. So it's nothing to do with the boat design itself, it's to do with the movement. That you're biting into the water and creating the wind has more problem moving that bit than it does that bit.
So that's the reason. That's where the thing comes from, that depending on which way you turn, you either go backwards or forwards. You want it to go this way, you go forward.
The way you compensate for this is you put your skate down.
Yeah, drop the skate.
So you put a skate down, which basically puts in a bit of high pressure there because it's a resistance to the wind, or you use your rudder, and the skate is quite nice because you can lower your skate to the point where you've just got balance. So then you're still going to be drifting sideways, but you're going to be staying on the same heading.
But without a skate, if you wanted to turn not into the wind but the other way around, then you go backwards.
Maybe the rudder would have a semi-rudder angle.
If you don't want to turn into the wind but away, you go backwards.
You actually want to steer in that direction?
Yes, you go backwards. That's what it would do.
Well, you'll be starting to drift like that. But the other thing that wind will do is that it will, of course, even with your skating used with the rudder and different strokes outside or whatever it is, so you've got a steady course, it will still drift you. So another rule for if you're navigating, so you're here in your kayak and you want to navigate to your landing place, and there's wind coming through, then what you actually really want to aim over here, because if you just carry on this, you're going to be having like this, and you'll be basically drifted off, even if I'm still always pointing towards that tree. I'm going to be even further.
Actually, that's a classic problem solving.
Yes. So if I always just aim for the tree without thinking about anything else, that's the path I'm going to take, and I'll then end up downwind of the tree. So what I need to do is compensate for that beforehand, so that rather going in that direction, I end up going in that direction. And of course, what I need to do for that is to actually paddle towards a marker over here. Well, that's wrong. I need to paddle in a certain direction. Angle theta. As to that, and if I can keep that angle constant, then I will basically do a ferry glide across there against the wind. And of course that, I don't use, if I have a marker there, then I have to keep changing the marker because it'll get closer.
It's vector.
As I get closer, yes, it's a vector. And I, as a rule of thumb, I'd say 5 degrees per, or 1 degree per knot, whatever you want to call it. As an approximation.
5 degrees.
So there's 20
5 knots of wind speed?
Yeah, so it's blowing 20 knots, so I'll aim approximately 20 degrees off, which is quite a bit, it's quite noticeable. So I'll be aiming over there, and of course I can still have my transit.
And you can watch your progress.
So, yes, I
Look sideways.
Yes, I go at 20 degrees, looking sideways, how I'm doing. And if I see them staying in line, then I know 20 degrees is spot on.
Yeah, very angle. You aim off.
If I find them drifting versus each other, then I change 25 degrees or 15 degrees.
Very handling ako dahil.
And I'll anyway need to keep adjusting that, because as I get closer to land, the wind will change. The wind will usually get a bit less close to land, and maybe there's some currents involved as well, and so on. So this is how I just make sure that I'm on the right track to get to land. Because it's very annoying at the end of the day when you're tired to find yourself in this position.
Yeah, and the pub's over there.
When the pub's over here, and you're having to fight into the wind to get to it.
That means you have a good sense of what the speed is just by feeling.
Yeah.
Well,
Conrad,
have you told them about how to read the wind? Because a white cap forms in so many knots.
Yeah, so it's useful having a look at these. There's a table in here, I noticed. Just about all navigation books have a table like this somewhere. If I can find it. And you can easily find this information on the website.
Like the chart.
It was here yesterday.
Yeah.
It's just both a chart.
Yeah. 2 pages.
You get a feel for it.
So if you want to go. Somewhere in there's a chart which basically, it's called the Beaufort chart, which but it just tells you what the wind speed is relative to things that you can see, like flying flags and white caps.
This one.
Yep, thank you. So it's good having a basic familiarity with this one. And we don't need to know about this stuff, which is where it goes up to Beaufort Force 11, because you kind of know you shouldn't be there by then. But it's useful to get to know this page at least, which is sort of up to the 20 knots, 25 knots, which is still quite safe to paddle in, but still you need to compensate for.
So, but in New Zealand, when they talk about weather, they say between 10 and 15 knots. We allow.
Yeah. I don't
know what it does here, but we always allow more because it gusts to like. How does it work, Conrad?
Well, the thing is, the weather forecast will predict 20 knots, say. And the first thing is that's just a prediction, so it's an average prediction, average wind speed. So it'll vary, it might go 10, 20, 30, 20. Even if the forecast is correct, you still might get 30 knot winds with a 20 knot forecast for a time being, even if the average is 20. But the other thing, of course, is it doesn't allow for topography. So if you've got an average wind of 20 on the weather forecast, then you might easily get 40 in small local areas, which wouldn't be in the forecast because that's below the resolution. So again, if these are points, and especially if they're big steep points, which of course the higher, the steeper they are, the more wind they're going to catch. And these can be kind of tricky places. But again, the kayak is great. In most conditions, you can just sneak in real close and around the corner, and you'll have much less problem than bigger boats would. Apart from the fact you've got no motor. So you've always got to remember that the weather forecast you get, well, firstly it's a forecast, so it might be wrong anyway. But even if it's right, it's an average forecast, so you'll get winds a bit more and a bit less.
Do you use that kind of measuring wind?
Well, you can, but that's not a forecast, it just tells you what it is right now.
Yeah, right now.
So you can do it this way as well if you want. It's useful for getting to know the wind, saying, okay, this is a 10 knot wind, this is a 20 knot wind, or whatever. So it's good from that point of view, I think, but it's a now thing, so you can feel that anyway.
So in the Philippines, you've got, is it Pagasa? What is it? What's with the channel that you use? Pagasa. So I don't know that when they talk about the wind prediction, like 10 to 15 knots, are they including expected gusts? Like in Australia, all the Australian ones, they go, the forecast is between 10 and 15, gusting 25 at times, right? But in New Zealand, they'll just go 10 to 15, and then you have to think. You add some extra on because it will gust something at separate times, so I don't know what.
That's why I was going to ask, maybe there's a range where it says like this, might be risky indeed. No?
Because they only forecast the gust during typhoons.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because we have the
So we look hungry.
we've got the world here. Philippines is quite close. We've got 10 degrees here.
Ito yung nahulog sa plastic, kabalot sa plastic. 12, 14, 12, 13.
Because for us, it's like before you leave home, you look at that and then think, there's no storm coming in, but this is the range that they're giving. So would it be good to paddle out here in Taal, in Batangas? You know? That's the thing.
It's relevant to the area.
We have quite different weather pattern in New Zealand. So we're down here. And in this area you've got rotating storms coming through. Everything is going this way around the world, of course, or at least the world is spinning that way. So we've got these big highs and lows coming through, and occasionally we will have one of your big, well not yours, but somewhere south of the equator, one of their big cyclones will come enough to hit New Zealand. But it's not usually they're petered out, but occasionally you get them. But we've got our normal weather system when there's not a cyclone coming through is quite different to here. It's a set of highs and lows sort of drifting around the southern hemisphere. And then in the subtropics you've got the trade winds, which where they go. So in the dry season you've got these winds coming up like this. And that's why the trip around New Caledonia I talked about last night was so lovely, because New Caledonia lies like that. So in the trade winds you get a continuous surf down the backside of
What do they call it? Trade winds, by the way? Trading.
Yeah, it's the old sailing boats. They use the trade winds. They didn't go up in, that's the doldrums, where we are. If you're caught in the doldrums, you're stuck in the tropics somewhere.
You're not delivering your wares.
But it's nice to be stuck here, right?
Yeah. So the big trading ships would find the trade wind belt, and that's the belt they travel in. And of course in the tropics we've got typhoons, and we've got the monsoon season.
Yeah.
Whatever, is it called the monsoon here? Yeah. So you've basically got 2 6-month seasons, wet, dry, with the different winds. So it's difficult for us because we're used to this sort of weather pattern. It's not at all the same as the weather pattern up here. It's structurally quite different. The same system as here. The 2 6 months and these pesky typhoons. So it is difficult because around the world there are different major changes to the weather pattern.
To the point that our educational system recently had to debate about it. When to open the schooling, when to open, because you need to plan the vacation or that.
Yeah. It also means if you read a book, a New Zealand book or an American book on weather, it's probably not going to be so relevant to the Philippines. You need to read maybe it's not quite right, but something which knows about the tropical situation.
That's why a class in high school in the Philippines about weather is very short. Just little analysis that the local teachers can do.
Yeah.
Just have 2 monsoons and that's it.
And then we haven't gone into details about the differences in these things, which is probably what we should, because we're traveling more of the lifestyle. That's why every summer now, you hear in the news, another school went excursion in the beach, one died. You know.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Just the
I'm
the
teaching
schools
World Geography.
plan that way.
World
Asking
Tourism.
they just ask us, it's safe or not?
Yeah.
The Coast Guard, they simply say, there's no storm,
Kasi
it's the dry season,
ano,
it's fine.
one,
But they don't really go into this thing.
one class per week, 3 hours.
3 hours.
Nasa Quezon chapter. I'm teaching World Geography and World Tourism
The
there.
Filipino kayaker will be a consultant for PAGASA in the future because of this school writing.
Tapos ano,
We need funding from the lower house.
Sure, approve. They will, just like PAGASA, it used to be without funds. Until those typhoons.
The other wind you'll get, which you'll get here as well, is where the afternoon sea breeze, which is maybe what we had here yesterday. So there's not. This is much worse in New Zealand because we get bigger difference between land temperature and sea temperature. But you'll still get, because there's the water warms up quite slowly. This will keep it. Water will keep its temperature longer than land will. So you've got to. They'll change their temperature at different times of the day. So what tends to happen is in the afternoon, this. The temperature of the land is rising, of course, as we get a hot afternoon, and the temperature here is rising as well, but it's not rising by so much because the sea has got a lot of thermal inertia. It doesn't change temperature very quickly, and then we start getting a temperature differential. Relatively, that's cooler than this, and that means that the air will be doing this. Hot air rising and drawing the air in from the sea, and this will create a wind, an inshore
Waves.
wind which will go there. But that's inshore over a big area. So, for example, if you're in here, say you're paddling off here, you'll find that probably, depending on the rest of the land, but the big winds will be coming in here because this land mass is heating up. So locally it might be an offshore wind that you get because the main wind is being pulled in here.
What if there's also a tall mountain here?
Well, the tall mountain will make it worse. Well, if it's a really big mountain,
When you say offshore wind, that's going to
inshore means it's blowing onto the shore,
onto the shore.
so that's safe. That's good from that point of view. But we all like having no wind at all, which is another reason for paddling in the morning, because the afternoons in New Zealand this tends to happen about 11 o'clock. Winds come up. I think our experience when we were in Palawan was the same. It started to get windier about 11 o'clock. It was windy anyway, but the wind would increase.
Does the wind eventually a little bit die down because the temperature?
It'll die down at dusk. Like that's why you often get at dusk. It often goes very calm, and then sometimes at night, but you will get the reverse thing because you'll get this will cool down, but this will cool down more on a cold night. In those conditions, you get an offshore wind, maybe early in the morning. But these don't tend to be as strong, so they're not so much of a problem. And these can be a big problem in places like Greenland, where you've got a lot of very cold air up here, and mountains, not in the tropics, but if you're in a further away from the equator and you've got mountains, especially mountains with ice and glaciers or anything, it can be quite dangerous because you get, under certain conditions, you've got all this cold air here and it will suddenly chill down here. And that's, in Greenland that's called a pisatok. That will come down at 50 knots.
Wow, that is strong.
That's the same in Yugoslavia, Croatia. Croatia, this is the Bora.
So what's the same thing you do? You also have go close to the coast, or you
well, these winds are very dangerous because there's not much notice. They just suddenly
I was,
suddenly turn on.
I was cycling in Croatia and a borer came in and you had no idea there was anything coming and I'm cycling along mountains in the sea, beautiful sunny day, and all of a sudden the borer just come through, I got blown off my bike. I just couldn't cycle for the rest of the day.
Oh, you were biking?
Yeah.
On land, even on land?
Oh, they're strong because I was biking beside the shore, but with high mountains.
Just here.
And that's me cycling there. But they come in, like the sky doesn't even change, it's just like...
Yeah. There are indicators, like if it's very clear, frosty night, that sort of thing, then it increases the chance, but these can be quite scary, because if you were out here enjoying a nice day on your kayak,
Smiling.
Smiling, then you suddenly get hit by 50 knots.
Can't imagine.
No, these sort of winds can be quite scary.
And grab away your paddle.
Yeah. In what you can do is you get a bit of notice, because there's a gust of warm wind in front of you. It's being pushed out.
Oh, you probably even wouldn't want to be out
So
there
in these
now.
areas, if you get a sudden increase in temperature, you start
You
worrying.
don't really want to be out
So it's
there.
not fighting.
All them.
Yes.
So it's
That
the
really?
Yeah.
11, 16.
Yeah.
But that's not a problem here. But these are
Conrad,
sort of
it depends how
things.
good you are.
If you're
Conrad can
doing
do that.
expeditions overseas, you need to think that the weather pattern
Because
might
we
be quite
have to
different
remember
here.
there's gusts.
There might be
bigger than
different
that.
things to worry about.
So it's not just a straight constant between 17 and 21. Quite often you'll get gusts that are 30 and 45. You've got to add.
But they're just short bursts, 30 minutes for.
Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah, how long
it's
does
still
it last?
unnerving.
A bora.
Question.
Well, a bora can last for hours.
Well,
But it's-
forget about it.
But it's like anything. It's the big hit is the beginning, and then it will tail off. So they can be very, very nasty. So being killed by these
When you
things.
say
Yeah.
bursts, is it equivalent to squalls? Call it squalls?
Yeah.
Yes.
We get
yeah.
a strong-
I'm talking about, you get gusts.
Yeah.
You know,
We
it's
get
not just
gusts from
20,
that
it's not
direction,
just
right?
20
No,
knots.
this is especially in hilly country, like New Zealand. So we got our line of hills, and
11,
here we are pedaling on here.
agnostic, start praying.
And so there's a prevailing wind coming through. Three-dimensional drawing. And this will channel through, so you'll find that you'll get very strong winds coming in through the valleys. So even if it's a nice flat shore, like along there, say, if you've got inland, you've got these big mountains and gullies, then the wind will preferentially go down the valleys, and then you're going to get very strong offshore winds here, quite big waves, and then it's completely flat and got another sort of line of them coming out here. And we get this quite a lot in New Zealand because we're a windy, hilly country. And that's, again, nothing to worry about. These will always be offshore winds because it's being funneled by wind coming through. So this is quite a danger in the south coast of Wellington. And we have a strong northerly wind because Wellington's got hills just like this. And it will just whistle through here. And these sort of things will also create a little willy wall, a little mini water spout.
So what do you call them? We call them woolly wall.
They have different names in different countries.
Yeah.
Water spots.
These are like rivers?
Well,
No, you know when you're out on the sea and suddenly there's like little mini squall
It's
comes
like
at you.
a tornado,
okay.
Yeah, but not even that big. It's not.
but the water comes from the
Ipo, we call the locals, you have to know it. They say Ipo.
Ipo.
In
Or Buhawi.
Palawan, what will they use?
Buhawi.
Buhawi.
Buhawi. It's a tornado.
You should write that down.
Write it down.
When the fisherman says Buhawi.
When you say Ipo, it's in the water.
Yeah.
But if it's Buhawi, it's area.
You mean on land?
On the
Everything is on the air because
Hindi, pero
This is-
sa tubig Ipo.
Oh, yun nga. So Ipo dapat. Ipo for the water. You sure, ah? Buhawi
But the water will flow like wind.
Oh yeah,
It's
kuli
the
kuli.
same stuff, it's liquid. So
Kuli kuli.
if you're looking at a plan view, you've got your mountains and your coast here. And the water will, sorry, the wind will flow through here as if it was water through islands. So again, you've got your constant wind here, and it'll hit the range,
Whirlpool na pre.
and it will all start spilling through here.
Buhawi yung...
And these willy wars are where you've got, they're basically like a whirlpool in the air. So it's where you've got two streams of this sort of thing. Then you might find a little whirlpool there, which is a willy war. And so it's like a little whirlpool in the water. It's a sign that you've got two currents doing different things.
So is it enjoyable paddling through that?
No.
No.
I don't think
But you could go and try it.
Well, you don't paddle through it because these things move quite fast. This will be moving along.
It'll come and get you.
Yeah, so you can't really chase it. But if you see one coming, you just have to brace hard, and it will just go.
But how do you know which direction to brace? Precisely.
Well, you'll see it coming.